Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Ooh-wee. There we go. Chris Arnold, 105.3 The Fans G-Bag Nation, joins me to preview the Cowboys' first playoff game in 5 years. Now, Chris, the veterans don't have extensive playoff success. The younger guys haven't been to the playoffs at all. Do you feel like they can still have that business-like approach to this one?
I think it's the perfect mix because the main guys, we're talking about Witten and Romo, those are the guys who haven't had the success in the playoffs, but the younger guys who are also very talented, including Dez Bryant, who haven't had a chance to go to the playoffs, they're excited, and Garrett is about the business of one game at a time. You know, he always talks about their process. One game at a time, one step at a time, and the higher goal. I think they're peaking at the right time.
Cliches abound in the playoffs. You always hear peaking at the right time. But do you really feel like the Cowboys are playing their best ball with dominant wins against Indianapolis and Washington?
Yes, their record in December speaks for itself. It's so dominant, Cowboy fans aren't really used to this. They're like, is this really smoke and mirror? They were 4-0 in December. But not only that, they averaged 41.3 points per game. There's only 3 other teams in NFL history in the last 50 years who have done that in 1 month. It's a period of time, 41.3. That includes the greatest show on turf, the St. Louis Rams in 2000, Tom Brady's undefeated New England Patriots before they lost in the Super Bowl, and of course, just last year it was Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos in September. That's called dominance. That's called being on the road. And believe it or not, the defense is also playing very, very well right now. To me, they've been more dominant the last 4 games than they were those 5 games in the early part of the year where they had that long winning streak.
Now, of course, Anthony Hitchens may not be able to play on Sunday, kind of that flex linebacker. But as you mentioned defensively, Rolando McClain comes in like gangbusters. Most of the defense seems to be healthy for the most part, and it seems like, wow, of all the times that the Cowboys have come close, the health factor has been a big part of it.
Yes, it's always been a factor. I call it the war of attrition. Towards the end of the year, it's about who's healthiest. In the last several years, the Cowboys have always been nicked up, banged up with lots of injuries. Right now, they're relatively healthy, and that means a lot. And for that defense, which is very aggressive, it's an opportunistic defense. It's not a great defense. It's an opportunistic defense. I've been looking at stats and analytics. Here's one I found that you guys are going to love if you're drinking the Cowboys Kool-Aid. The Cowboys defense, when they force 2 turnovers, they are 9-0. Just 2 turnovers. That's all it takes. And this past month, they forced a league-high 10 turnovers the last 3 games.
And Rod Marinelli was talking about that. Go after stripping the football when an offensive player is trying to run away or do something fantastic. Strip the football. They've been really emphasizing that in practice, and now it's been paying off.
Yeah, in fact, the Cowboys are second in the league in forced turnovers this past season, where a year ago they were dead last in the entire defensive statistical category. But Marinelli does that. When he was in Chicago, they led the league with 48. I think this year they got 31.
Now let's talk a little bit about the last time the Lions and Cowboys played each other. Megatron was not that bad. Did all right.
That's the only 329 yards, the second greatest pass-catching game in history.
Yeah, not that bad, right?
Yeah,
but at the same time, both teams have changed a lot since that last game. Detroit, obviously, their offensive game planning is looking completely different, but the Cowboys especially look different.
Here's what's going on in Detroit. Scott Linehan is no longer there. He is here. He's the Cowboys' basically offensive coordinator. The pass game, he calls all the plays. He was there for 9 years. He knows the personnel backwards. He may not know the schemes, but he knows the personnel. And one thing about Rod Marinelli, he wasn't the defensive coordinator last year for the Cowboys. He was the defensive line coach. Brandon Carr will not be on an island by himself this year.
Sounds like you're leaning Cowboys for this one.
I'm leaning heavily Cowboys. You could say I've drunk the Kool-Aid, but the stats bear me out. Right now, they're on a roll. Tony Romo had the highest quarterback ranking of the month of December, the passer rating, in history. He's on fire. He's being conservative. You got a running game that's not forcing him to be a gambler. I'm going to pick the Cowboys 31-17 to beat the Detroit Lions.
That's a 2-touchdown favorite by this young man. You can listen to Chris Arnold, G-Bag Nation, from 10 to 3, weekdays on 105.3 The Fan. Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year to you, Edward. Appreciate you.
And I'm Edward Egros, Fox 4 Sports.